So let's get to this one. So I titled the show today, "The Greatest Bull Run in History is Coming to Bitcoin." And this is Gary Cardone. He's actually one of my, I shouldn't say one of my favorites, but I enjoy listening to him. He does a live stream every Sunday on his channel. And I've learned some stuff from Gary, not in terms of Bitcoin stuff, but just like overall. It's nice to get other people's perspective, especially people who have been on the earth longer than you. And so I think he's got a lot of wisdom to share. And he's a big Bitcoiner. And I like this because he basically he gives big props to Bitcoin first, and then he talks about how these next 4 to 8 years are going to be the biggest in Bitcoin history. And I agree with that. So let's listen to Gary here. Sorry, folks. I always forget to do this because when I share the whole screen, it doesn't have audio. So let me stop that. I mean, you could still see the subtitles there still. So I apologize for that. That's my bad. So I need to go to, no, where was that? Here we go. So this should have audio. I mean, I think you saw it, like it had subtitles. So let's just
$2 trillion anything failed. Can't say that about Ethereum. Can't say that about Doge or Solana. Sure. Like, it's $2 trillion. Okay. And the real estate market, just to give you a perspective, is 330. So everybody and their brother wants a piece of this action because it's performing so well. And to me, the performance, like you said, I think the greatest amount of money that's going to be made is in the next 4 to 8 years and retained. The greatest amount of money ever made in Bitcoin is going to be made in the next 4 to 8. You're not late.
Honestly, Gary, thank you.
Easy, buddy. Easy Gary, clapper guy.
Thank you. And then
he liked that one. Let's listen to this again, though, because I think that this is actually really important. Like he said a lot of things that within 1 minute here, he nailed 3 things. The number one, the $2 trillion industry has never failed before in history. I know it's kind of early, though, because it's fun to say that. Like, this is just kind of my take on it. It's fun to say, like, there's never been an asset get to $2 trillion and then fail. But I mean, if you look back, like 20 years ago, the whole US debt was like 4 trillion, I think, or 6 trillion. So like we've never been dealing with numbers like this before. So we're working with a very short, very small sample size here. Like there hasn't been a lot of assets that have actually reached $2 trillion. This isn't like something we can go back in 200 years of history and say, okay, Bitcoin's hit $2 trillion. There's never been another asset that's hit $2 trillion and then failed. We're working with like a decade or two sample size here. So it's important to understand that, but it's not like the end all be all, because I think that there's assets that are $2 trillion today that will fail. They just haven't yet. And I'm not saying Bitcoin's going to, obviously. I don't think anybody would take that away from it, but it's important to kind of like clarify that. But the other part too here is this, the performance. So when we talk about the performance of Bitcoin, I mean, this show, I talk about a lot of different things, right? Security being probably the biggest one, philosophy around Bitcoin. But realistically, the thing that people care most about is performance. And so when you're seeing a world where like everything is losing value, even though it's being inflated in fiat terms, everything is really losing value to Bitcoin. And I think once people have that unlock, that maybe I should be measuring this asset in Bitcoin or gold and not fiat, then they're like, okay, I need to get some Bitcoin. So as people are losing their fortunes everywhere, as boomers are seeing their retirement funds evaporate and life getting more and more expensive, The number one thing that people care about is the performance of that asset. And again, there's going to be a lot of people coming to Bitcoin this fall. A lot of them are going to buy it at 150 and sell it at 250. And they're going to feel bad for the rest of their life. But there's going to be a small percentage of people within that who stick around and who start learning Bitcoin and studying Bitcoin and have that conviction in Bitcoin that doesn't matter. $250,000 what? $250,000 in what? Fake paper? Who cares? So once you get past that point, it's like, that's the demand for Bitcoin. That's the green light theory that I have, is it doesn't matter who owns Bitcoin. It matters who understands Bitcoin. So that's an important part, the performance here of Bitcoin.
Perspective is
And finally, this last part here
330.
about
So
the
everybody
next
and their
48
brother
years.
wants a piece of this action because it's performing so well. And to me, the performance, like you said, I think the greatest amount of money that's going to be made is in the next 4 to 8 years and retained. The greatest amount of money ever made in Bitcoin is going to be made in the next 4 to 8. You're not late.
Honestly, Gary, thank you.
So that's what I mean. Like, if you've been watching the show for a while, I've kind of been under the same theory. Is like, we look at the CAGR, which is the compound annual growth rate of Bitcoin, and you put out these projections for what the price of Bitcoin could be in 2030, 2035, and you put it at 40, 50, 60, 20. Some people have it at 20. Like Michael Saylor thinks that Bitcoin is going to go up 20% annually for the next 21 years. And I'm like, that is so incredibly bearish for what's going to happen here, in my opinion. And I mean, nobody's going to benefit more than Michael Saylor being wrong about that than Michael Saylor would. But it's like, nobody's here yet. It's a $2 trillion market cap. Real estate's 330 trillion. And the majority of that real estate, people don't actually live in those homes. So a lot of that capital is going to flow into Bitcoin. So in the first 2 trillion here, we went from like $5 per Bitcoin to $120,000 Bitcoin, from 0 to 2 trillion. But what about the rest of it? What about all this other stuff? What about every inactive asset or non-utility asset? All of that's going to flow into Bitcoin. All of the future production of this planet and beyond, maybe, all that's going to flow into Bitcoin. And so what we've seen so far is this kind of thing going up and down, very volatile, very choppy, some sideways action. But it's like 0.5% of people own Bitcoin. And I'd say that like 0.05% people understand Bitcoin. And once both those numbers go up, that's when we see this whole movement. And I 100% agree with Gary here. We haven't seen anything yet. If you look at the S-curve adoption, I would say that we're still in the flat part of the S, like the very first part of it. And we haven't seen that upwards movement yet. That's when the real action is going to happen. And I do think it's going to be in the next 4 to 8 years, because news travels fast, right? And when there's a whole bunch of people out there with real estate holdings, Airbnbs, rental homes, apartments, they start looking into Bitcoin. Once they see it, they're not going to buy any more real estate. They're going to start selling their real estate. And so that's going to spark two things. It's going to spark a huge supply in real estate coming onto the market as these people want to sell their real estate and cash into Bitcoin. So there's going to be a huge amount of supply of real estate. There's going to be not a lot of demand for real estate, which is going to bring the prices down in Bitcoin terms for sure. Fiat might keep going up because they're just going to continuously print more money. But in Bitcoin terms, that number is just going to go like this. Whereas Bitcoin, all of that capital is going to flow in. And unlike real estate, unlike gold, unlike any other asset, irregardless of the demand in Bitcoin, we cannot create more Bitcoin. So that's why I think that this whole thing hasn't even started yet. He said we're early. It's not even that. It's like, it really hasn't even started yet. Hasn't even started yet. I think that 2035, that's where it's really going to start. You could argue that it might be 2140 once all the Bitcoin's been mined. But I think that the amount of Bitcoin mined between 2035 and 2140 is going to be so insignificant that that's not even really a factor in this. I think the majority of the Bitcoin appreciation, increase in purchasing power is actually going to come in this next 10 years, next decade. So that's kind of my take on it.